Hi, everyone. This is Paul Romanelli. I'm currently serving as the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction in Long Beach Public Schools. I finished my doctoral studies about 2 or 3 years ago at this point at St. John's University, and I'm really happy to be here presenting at the Leadership Symposium in 2021. So thanks for viewing this video if you are someone who is watching. And, you know, it's an exciting time to be getting your doctoral degree. It really is a lot of work, but it's totally worth it in the end. You know, it may pique your interest in other areas that you want to pursue further. You may find some really great results of something really meaningful that can make a positive difference in the lives of people. And, you know, it definitely opens up new doors for you as well. So, you know, I'm excited to just be here today to talk a little bit about my own study, which if I could share my screen and present that to you. This title of the study is Teacher-Student Interactions as a Predictor of Reading Growth in Middle School. And a little bit about myself. You know, I am by heart a middle school educator. I went to school at SUNY New Paltz and graduated with my degree in elementary education and math, and then my master's in, that was my bachelor's degree, and then my master's in special education. I wound up starting to teach 6th grade in the Harborfield School District, which is the middle school level. Right out of college, I taught for about 10 years in the middle school classroom, became the dean of students there. I became an assistant principal at Plainview Old Bethpage Middle School after that for a few years. And then became middle school principal over in Long Beach Public Schools for a number of years as well. I attained my doctoral degree from St. John's, and then became the assistant superintendent here in Long Beach now. So very excited about all that. And this study, as I said, is related to middle school. So it's really a lot of where my heart is. You know, I'm a big believer that you know, teacher-student relationships and the connections that we make with students are really at the heart of learning. And that was a big motivator behind this study. So let me get into sharing that. Hope you maybe learned something from this. I'm going to keep my contact information at the end in case you want to reach out or have any questions. But basically, the big idea here is that, you know, reading achievement is extremely important. Some of the literature review I did, you know, indicated that really our students aren't prepared for college work or citizenship if they don't develop the advanced literacy skills they need to achieve mastery in their other content areas. I want to take a look at the teacher's impact on that student achievement and the relationships they have with their students. Was there a correlation? And really looking at this at the middle school level and what the possible gender implications were after viewing the next slide. So really, you know, the first time that this became highlighted was in 1983. In A Nation at Risk. And the United States had scored lower in international assessments in comparison to other countries in many academic areas. If you look at the line graph at the bottom, this is the trend in 8th grade NAEP reading average scores. And you can see the growth is, you know, up and down, kind of stagnant at times. So you see our reading growth really is slow and also falls below that proficiency line in the 8th grade. You can even see up in the top right that our students in 8th grade are scoring less at proficiency than our students in 4th grade as well. And then the difference, the gender piece there, you can see that female students on their scale scores outscored their male counterparts by 10 points on the scale score as well. So there was the first time that gender became an issue that popped out for me. So I really wanted to identify successful methods of raising reading proficiency and the classroom practices there that we could follow. I came across a tool called the QTI, the Questionnaire on Teacher Interactions, that I'll introduce in a little bit, and then really wanted to look at some factors that have contributed to the gender achievement gap. The theoretical framework that I used, Vygotsky's theory of social constructivism, said that a child's ideas are developed through interactions with peers and teachers. I talk a little bit about the zone of proximal development, which is included in there in this construct. And also that students should be given the opportunity to learn from their peers through working collaboratively. There's some tie-in with the QTI there as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Also, Bandora's social cognitive theory emphasizes the importance of imitation, modeling, and observational learning. And Bandura believed that people learn not only through their own experiences, but by observing others and by observing the actions and the results of those actions. If you want to take a look on the next page, this is the theoretical framework. This is a visual representation of the QTI. You can see that there are 8 dimensions here. And if you start in the top right, one of those dimensions is leadership. The next one is helping, is the teacher helping or friendly? Is the teacher understanding? Do they allow for student freedom and responsibility? Or do they show uncertain behavior? Are they dissatisfied with their job? Do they show admonishing behavior? Are they strict in the classroom? These were the types of questions that were included in the survey that were spread out throughout the survey and then rated on these 8 different dimensions. The importance of this study also is that we narrowed the focus to middle school reading achievement. A lot of the assessments in other studies that I read were in other content areas like math. And math has actually become more reading based as we've moved through the years in the state assessments. And the hope is that teachers and administrators can use these results to set goals and really offer targeted professional development. So the 2 big research questions: what is the correlation between teacher-student relationships and reading growth? And then how do specific teacher interactions uniquely affect students from different genders? Throughout the literature review, I looked for things like social interactions and inquiry, interactions in the classroom, the zone of proximal development, again, Vygotsky being part of the theoretical framework, looking at articles there, looking at teacher self-efficacy, teacher-student relationships, gender, behavior with teachers and students and interactions. And just as something that was helpful for me, I thought about my research questions and I organized my lit review into three different sections. First, for me, the impact of teacher-student relationships and interactions on achievement. I organized that section of my lit review in one place. Next, the effects of gender on interactions and academic achievement, and then the QTI. So if you're doing your own study and you want to think about organizing your lit review because it's a huge undertaking, just think back to those questions. It was really helpful to me, at least, and I was able to just kind of, I'm a very organized person in that way. I had different piles of different questions I was looking to answer, and I organized, the writing of my dissertation that way as well. So I hope that that's helpful to you. The big takeaways, I gave you a top 3. Identify the QTI as an appropriate data collection tool. Talked about the importance of using standardized academic measures. This study uses the HMH reading inventory, formerly known as the Scholastic Reading Inventory, or the RI. And then really taking a look at the differences in male and female interactions with their teachers. So that was the research design. And this is kind of what the QTI looks like on paper. We, or I should say, adjusted this to a Google form so that teachers were able to administer this in their classrooms. All students in the building participating in the study had a one-to-one Chromebook initiative. They were able to have the directions read by their teachers. Teachers were able to answer any questions about the definitions of words or things like that were provided to them. And students then took the survey without any sort of help and submitted it, which was great to be able to do this anonymously, really transfer Google form results over to a Excel spreadsheet and then match it with the results of the HMH reading inventory. When we did that, the HMH reading inventory gives you a Lexile level. We looked at the fall Lexile level and then the spring Lexile level. So over the course of a year, that was the time frame. And then we matched that with student ID numbers from their surveys that they took and their achievement on the reading inventory, and did the data analysis. All personal identifying information was removed at that point in time. Looked at all these different pieces of the sample and population, and took a look if anything popped out as well when looking at these different results. These were all included in the spreadsheet that we looked at. As you can see, and as I mentioned before, the study takes place in middle school. 6th and 7th grade were great grades to look at because you have the end of elementary school into the beginning of secondary school. So you can see we try to get as close as possible to an even group in 6th and 7th and an even group of males and females. So we were roughly around that 200 mark for each of the groups. A little further skewed on male and female, but we were pretty close. As you see, the average Lexile level growth from fall to spring, students grew on average 77 points. We took a look at college and career readiness. The students at this building did fall into that range of Lexile levels for grades 6 through 8. They were at the average to high average range. Same for the end of the year Lexile proficiency bands. When you looked at the average at the end of the year for 6th and 7th grade, students were at the average or above average range for their end of the year Lexile proficiency bands. And if you look at Lexile scores by grade level, you can see the average fall score for 6th grade and spring score, and then the average fall score and spring score for 7th grade. Typically, you do see more growth the earlier that the grades go, and slows as the higher grades go up, as you can even see from those charts that were given previously there. This is the first time you really see the 8 different dimensions of the QTI really listed out in this study. And students rated their teachers on a scale of 0 to, on a Likert scale, 0 to 4. 4 being, that they were top in that area, 0 showing none, no qualities of that area. So you can see the positive ones like leadership and understanding and being helping and friendly were above a 3, which was great because that means that most students rated teachers in this school that did this study above somewhere between a 3 and a 4, which is great. And then the ones that you would consider negative, like the teacher is uncertain or dissatisfied with their job, they were rated the lowest, as you can see, between a 0 and a 1. So that was, really, I guess, promising, for the building. That's one positive of using the QTI to get a gauge here. If something jumped out that teachers weren't demonstrating leadership, in the classroom, that might be a place you want to identify professional development for your teachers. And then you can see here, just by looking at the Pearson growth correlation, the uncertainty number kind of jumped out. And so I put an asterisk there so you can see that. So it took a look a little bit further and did a frequency analysis. It didn't really provide much more insight, but just in looking at it, 81% of the students involved in the study rated their teachers at 1.0 or below in the area of uncertainty. And that means that more than 8 out of 10 students surveyed felt that their teachers seldom or never displayed these characteristics. And then you can see the negative correlation there for admonishing and strict as well. This was interesting here because male students actually started with higher scores in the fall and showed more growth over the course of the year, which was in contrast to what those NAEP results, recent NAEP results showed as the national trend. Wanted to dig a little bit deeper and take a look at how male and female students view their teachers because we hadn't necessarily pulled out anything so significant just yet. But if you do take a look at this, female students rated their teachers in the areas of helping or friendly or leadership and understanding higher than their male counterparts. And actually male students rated their teachers higher in the areas of dissatisfied, student responsibility or freedom, admonishing, uncertain, and strict. And dissatisfied and strict were actually significant, which you can see we went a little bit further with on the next page. So when things start to pop out there, you just keep digging deeper and deeper. Here, did several one-way ANOVAs that were conducted by gender for each subscale to determine the between and within group effects. And according to the data that you can see here in the tables, there were significant differences present between groups in the areas of dissatisfied and strict. And in both of these areas, males rated teachers significantly higher than females. So that was an interesting takeaway. When looking at student achievement between the two gender groups, there were significant results regarding the average scores in the areas of uncertainty, student responsibility and freedom, and dissatisfied. And also took a look at the variance here for uncertainty, student responsibility and freedom, dissatisfied, and gender, which is noted here on this page. Here's a visual just to take a look at the difference between the reading growth from fall to spring, incorporating the QTI score. So the green line is our male students. You can see they started a little bit higher and then showed more growth and finished higher than their female counterparts as well. So some implications of the findings. What did we learn from this study? Basically, we talked about the positives and negatives and how this building itself, we saw the positives we wanted to see, we saw the negatives that we wanted to see. There really was, how a student perceives their teacher was really not the main predictor for reading growth. Some of the big things that were pulled away from the study were that the QTI is really can be used to quantify the idea that teacher relationships have a positive or negative effect on students. Like for instance, some of the literature review showed that teachers having low levels of self-efficacy or being uncertain about their ability to achieve success in turn have lower levels of achievement for their students. So this study kind of reiterated that. And so in thinking about a couple different things, what were some of maybe the limitations of the study? When you think about the external validity, for example, students are repeatedly tested on the reading inventory in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, beginning, middle, and end of the grade. And they are, so there's a little bit of threat to the external validity there. The internal validity, I thought about maturation and history. Students are asked to recall last year. In other words, we used the data from their previous school year, from fall to spring, and then they were asked about their teacher from the previous year, and they had to recall that information. They also may be familiar with the assessment being administered so many times. And in terms of statistical conclusion validity, there are 8 different dimensions. So anytime that happens, the more tests performed, the more chance of invalid data. So there's a little bit of fishing there. Reliability of treatment implementation. There were different teachers administering the assessment, and although they were given the same instructions and students use the same devices, there may have been some variance there with students taking the test with different teachers. Also, they were in different classrooms, so there could have been possible environmental factors as well, temperature, visual stimulation, things like that. So big pieces here, I would say about this study, if you were going further or wanted to take some pieces of here to follow up on, this could be used for conversations with teachers. If a teacher was rated really high on the admonishing scale, let's say, to go further and make this a qualitative study to find out what are the things the teacher said to be rated in that way, and then using that qualitative data to have conversations with the teacher, and talk about their practice and looking at their academic results and talking about the possible connections there. Also, in a takeaway that, this study, male students view their teacher as being more dissatisfied with their job and stricter than their female counterparts. So it is possible that could be an indicator for a future study. Like for instance, looking at engagement or discipline referrals, something along those lines. If a male student views their teacher as being more dissatisfied with their job than their female counterparts, is their engagement in the classroom lower than that of their opposite gender? So just some ideas for future studies. And, thank you for sticking in if you're still here with me at the end of this recording. And I am always open if you want to reach out while you're doing your study. If you need any help with anything, you can contact me via this email address. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm always happy to talk to fellow doctoral students. Again, congratulations for making it this far. I know everybody's going to make it through with their program, and hope everyone has a great day. Thanks again for watching.